Good afternoon, and welcome to today's media availability with Premier Tim Houston, Premier of Nova Scotia. We'll do media questions in the room, and then we'll check with the those participating by Zoom, and we'll come back to the room to finish up. Take it away.
We found out last week that the province is talking to Nova Scotia Power about ways to mitigate fuel costs. Obviously, there's been a global increase in fuel costs. I'm just wondering, I asked Minister Rushton about this as well, but I was just wondering if sort of generally you could talk about what sorts of options the province might have at its disposal.
I think the number one concern I have is there's been a lot of volatility in fuel prices, obviously. And sometimes the process, they'll look at adjustments over a period of time, like, they're looking at a couple of the next out years. So, I mean, one option would be to kind of just look at the current year and deal with the out years later. Price may come down, so why would we kind of adjust the price on the out years today, looking at the volatility that's already existed in the market. So, basically, when you cut right through it, the rate increase, the fuel adjustment, there's a number of other aspects to the rate increase as well. All these things. I just want to make sure that obviously the ratepayers are my only concern, and we just want to make sure that what's happening is in the best interest of Nova Scotians over the long term.
On the other component of the rate increase, other than the fuel, the sort of core part that we all heard about back in January, the almost 10% over 3 years. You've talked about, you're intervening in that. You've talked before about how you oppose that. How far are you prepared to go in your opposition to that? I'm wondering if you're exploring the option of deferring this the way that the previous government did.
Yeah, we're exploring every option. I mean, we'll do what's necessary to protect the ratepayers, what's in the best interest of the ratepayers. So obviously, we want to make sure that we have a utility that is strong in the sense that it's able to provide reliable power to Nova Scotians. We want to make sure we're continuing on the path to decarbonization. Both of those things have a cost for sure. But when we factor in all of those things, the main Nova Scotians have to be able to afford their power and the cost of living in this province. So affordability it lays over everything that we do. That's also why we put forward a plan that's better than a carbon tax. It will reduce greenhouse gases faster, and it's more affordable for Nova Scotians. So everything we do is looking out for the best interests of Nova Scotians and what's affordable for them.
But do you have the option to just say no to this, to pass legislation?
Yeah, we have all kinds of options. We'll look at them all.
I wanted your vision of healthcare and where private companies fit into the picture in light of your meeting with Ford and the other maritime premiers.
We're always, look, we need a healthcare system that's there for Nova Scotians, provide the care Nova Scotians need when they need it. It's my personal view, it should be inside a public system. So, we're committed to strengthening the public system for sure. There won't be a time under my tenure as Premier where Nova Scotians need to use anything except their MSI card to pay for their health care. I'm not interested in Nova Scotians using their credit card to pay for health care. So we're looking at options to strengthen the public system. We'll look at all options. Obviously, we have, there's been some talk about Scotia Surgery in this province. Scotia Surgery is an arrangement that has existed since 2008 through every form of government, and it's always been there to provide care to Nova Scotians in the same order. There's been there's no favoritism as to who gets to go there, and people have went there and got surgeries and used their MSI card to pay for that. So the public system is what this country is based on, and that's my belief.
What are your thoughts on the argument that some make that basically if you have a parallel system, the private for-profit people are sucking energy away from the public system?
Scotia Surgery has been there for 14 years in this province, so that's nothing new. The main goal has to be getting people access to the care that they need, and we'll mobilize every ounce of resource that we can muster to get people the care that they need. It's exactly what we're doing in the addictions and mental health space, where we're looking to mobilize everyone who can provide care to Nova Scotians who may happen to have a private shingle out as a private psychiatrist or something, mobilizing them to help Nova Scotians all through the public system. So, there's a lot of, I'm not really interested or distracted by the fear-mongering that takes place. The reality is we're focused on making sure Nova Scotians can access the care they need when they need it and where they need
You
it.
don't buy the so-called slippery slope argument that once we start trickling it to the private system.
I just don't see it. I don't see in Nova Scotia being on that slope. So I won't even speculate on whether it's a risk or not. We want Nova Scotians to get the care they need in the public system. Full stop.
How important is the role of immigration then in bringing in healthcare professionals in light of the human resources shortage and then getting that accreditation?
So I mean, having adequate staffing levels, having qualified healthcare professionals in the system is absolutely critical. So we know that that's been a challenge. So obviously, immigration is huge in that aspect. Making sure that healthcare professionals who have something to offer in terms of providing care to Nova Scotians are able to do it, are accredited here in this province in a safe and timely manner. Those things are critical. So there's lots of moving parts, but the focus does not change by the noise around me. I've remained extremely focused on it.
You're looking for ways to streamline that accreditation? Is
Yeah,
that possible?
Yeah, to make it well. Look, we can never jeopardize the standard of care. We remain focused on the healthcare outcomes. Nova Scotians need to know that when they're getting care from somebody, it's a qualified professional. So, but the accreditation process should be smoother and will be smoother. We're focused on that. Expanding the scope of practice of different professionals. We'll continue to do that to make sure that if you take nurses for example, that we're supporting nurses, and if there are other healthcare professionals who can take some who can support them and do some of the tasks that they're having to do now, that will free up them to do other tasks that they're qualified for as well. So there's lots of moving parts, but I will tell you the amount of work that's happening in the healthcare system is the speed that healthcare professionals are responding with changes and improvements, and the cooperation we see with healthcare professionals. It's absolutely breathtaking. And I will tell you, if you get sick in this province, you will get extremely good care, and shame on anyone who suggests otherwise.
Can I ask you about the back to school plan regarding schools across Nova Scotia? We spoke with Minister Drew, and it seems like it's going to be status quo. Are you concerned about that, given a large population of elementary students are yet to be vaccinated?
We take our guidance from public health on this. Public health are the experts. They're aware of the epidemiology. They have the models. They understand the movement of the virus, the risk of the virus. They're the experts. So we take our guidance from them.
And public health strongly encourages masking indoors as a tool, one tool against the spread of the virus. Why is it that the Department of Education has decided not to make masking mandatory when post-secondary institutions, most of them, are requiring those students to do it? It seems like a disconnect to a lot of people.
Well, it's not a disconnect from our perspective. We follow public health. If the universities and the faculties of universities have some other body that they prefer to take guidance from, outside of Nova Scotia Public Health, they're welcome to do that, and they have done that, as you can see. But I don't do that. I follow public health.
I just want to ask one question, if I may, about the health leadership team that you put in place for almost a year ago. September 1st is next week. Any changes there? I ask because it was an interim appointment. Karen Oldfield's CEO position was an interim, and we're still uncertain what Dr. Orrell's role is with the Office of Recruitment. So what can you tell us at this point about the role of the health leadership? Any changes?
No, not that I don't envision any in the immediate term. I mean, that's a really strong health leadership team. When you look at the fulsomeness of the team, healthcare professionals are supported. Obviously, Karen's approach to things and her experience is very valuable. We're going through a period of change management. That involves input from healthcare professionals. That involves input from people who have been through change management before. And we need, the health leadership team is a core group of people. But I actually see that health leadership team of every healthcare professional in this province. And believe you me, I hear from them with their ideas, and we support them. When somebody comes forward with an idea of how something can be done a little different that they think will improve care, we support them. There's all kinds of pilot projects happening around this province right now, and they'll lead to better care. So I'm very confident in what's happening in healthcare. I know this, that without that leadership team left the way it was before a year ago, things would be a lot worse with no hope in sight. Right now, there's a lot of hope in sight.
We're going to check in on Zoom now. Stuart Powell, I believe you're there with the Herald. Stuart, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. So on behalf of my colleague Francis Campbell, who's covering the Mass Casualty Commission, he had an ambitious campaign promise to, particularly around healthcare. Now that you've reached a year since that election win, did you think that was rather unrealistic expectations among Nova Scotians? And are the goals to actually fix everything? Is that unreachable?
No, look, it's the responsibilities of the provincial government will never change. As long as there's a provincial government, they'll be focused on healthcare, they'll be focused on education, they'll be focused on supporting Nova Scotians. There'll be a constant evolution as the world changes, as technology changes, innovation changes, care delivery methods change. So there'll be a constant process of the evolution of healthcare. Would be my goal that Nova Scotia is at the forefront of that. So. Yeah, it's ambitious, but Nova Scotians deserve nothing less than that. They deserve a government that is completely focused and works extremely hard to make things better in this province. So, people stop me on the street, and the most common thing they say to me is, "Keep going, keep going." We're getting a lot done. If the objective observer looks at what we've accomplished in one short year, it's a pretty staggering list. I've put that against any administration that this province has seen in my lifetime. We're going to keep going. We'll work harder. We'll work faster because there's a lot of work to do, and Nova Scotians deserve nothing less.
Do you have a final question, Stuart?
Yes, you met with the other premiers earlier this week. You mentioned that there was a lot of discussion going on and called for more collaboration specifically with the federal government. What level are you looking at for that to help with the health? Are you looking at a complete revamp of the system? What came out of those meetings that you can share?
Well, I think what there's if you take the Atlantic premiers for sure, very close working relationships, but the premiers across the country. I mean, we talked about healthcare in an election a year ago. It just turns out we were just a year ahead of it. It's just constant national news across the country right now. We identified it on Nova Scotian shores a little quicker than it was maybe identified elsewhere. But there's a commitment to work together in the sense of sharing best practices. We don't need to recreate the wheel in this province. We just need the best wheel. So sometimes we have the best wheel. Sometimes other provinces have the best wheel. But we just need to be open about sharing what's working and what's not working. And be honest about that. So that's happening. I think with the federal government, the room for collaboration is certainly around immigration. It's there may even be a role for the federal government in helping to streamline the accreditation process for those that were trained in other jurisdictions. Those are discussions that are happening. But certainly we see the budgets of Nova Scotia's budget, the budgets of every province. I mean, healthcare is a significant portion of the budget, and I think the federal government knows that it has a responsibility to keep up with its fair share there, and those discussions will continue as well.
That's all the time we have for questions today.
The House will sit in the fall. One more for Keith.
All right. The Mass Casualty Commission, the senior Mounties who've been testifying this week have come up with a line that there's been chronic underfunding of the force in Nova Scotia. The former Commander Lee Bergerman has wondered whether perhaps we need to have a conversation in a province where healthcare is the main focus. Do we need, and I think the quote was, do we need 5 doctors or 10 police? That's the way she put it. It's like she wasn't saying that you were wrong, but she was saying that there's a problem there.
Parts to look at the budget of this province. There are many things happening at the same time. Healthcare is obviously a focus. So is community services. So is paving roads. I mean, the government is working on a lot of things at any given time, and public safety is one of those as well. So we'll have those discussions. But everything around the commission for me is just putting the families at the center of it and making sure that they get the answers that they need and positive change comes out of it. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Premier.
Thank you.